Hey guys, it's Coach Jessica. Yay, live video is working again. I thought I was going to have to post another old video. Scary, those ones I recorded a few years back. They do have good nuggets of wisdom that last the test of time, but my appearance has changed over the years, so I kind of hate posting those old ones. Not that that's that important. But anyway, so I want to make sure that all of you did watch the video that I posted from the other day. It's really, really important because I introduced the concept of Ed, the voice of sabotage. In our group, you'll hear me refer to Ed. I will also interchangeably call Ed the voice of sabotage or the enemy, because it's an enemy voice that's in our head. But the most important part that I hope you got from that is that voice, that sabotage voice, is not yours. He sounds like you, but the difference in you and Ed is he is always pointing you back towards your addiction, or even more clearly, he's pointing you back towards food as a solution for whatever your problem is. In fact, you don't even have to have a problem. He's just pointing you towards food at all times. So that's the most important part that you grasp, is that we're not fighting ourselves. We are fighting a voice of sabotage. When you give him a name, when you give that voice a name, it separates it from you, and it makes it a battle that you can win. And I'm going to be teaching you over the next week, how do we win that battle? But I wanted to expand on something that I introduced in that video, and that is the concept of HALT. I don't know if you caught that part. I just kind of buzzed through it very quickly. But there's a concept. I was first exposed to it when I was 17 years old in an eating disorder hospital. So yes, that was 30 years ago. And it wasn't something I could really put into place until I started to get food sober. When my mind was right, I could apply the concept of HALT. So again, this is where nutrition and having good brain health marries to things that really are true and work as far as overcoming sabotaging thoughts and your eating disorder. So the concept of HALT is that when we are in certain states of mind or certain danger zones, I think they used to call them triggers. I kind of hate that word because people use that word triggered, I think, maybe way too much. But so when we are in certain danger zones, we are more susceptible to Ed. You might think that because you were able to bypass chips that are on the counter that you have nailed that. So maybe you live in the house with people who eat carbs, and that's not an unusual thing at all. But as you know, when you have acceptance, you realize that you have to live your life differently. You can't just do what other people do. And so those carbs are not for you. The chips are not for you. Honestly, they're not good for anybody, but your job is to work on you. So you might say, I am immune to the appeal of chips because I was able to pass them by. I walked by them 10 times and I was fine. They didn't call out to me. I have conquered that. And then the very next day, you walk by chips and you grab them and you take a handful. So probably you've experienced that, and you might wonder why. Why on this day was I able to push past and it not call out to me, and on this day I gave into it? And then we feel so disappointed because we think we're extra disappointed. It's something we thought we conquered, and we actually lower our defenses around it because we think we got it. Well, the answer is that you are in a danger zone. And one of the things I want you to spend some time on today is really starting to figure out what your danger zones are. The concept of HALT, the words hungry, angry, lonely, and tired, which are the top 4 danger zones that we have, not just in food addiction, but with other addictions. When you're too hungry, when you're too angry, when you're too lonely, when you're too tired, those are top danger zones where we are more susceptible to Ed. We are more susceptible to a food thought. In each one of those situations, we are more vulnerable, more likely to give into a sabotaging thought. You can have the sabotaging thought on a day when you're not experiencing hunger, anger, loneliness, or tiredness, but you may have the emotional stamina to overcome it. When you don't realize that you're in a danger zone, all of a sudden the next thing you know is you've given into that impulse. And that's the difference in the days that you make it through and the days that you don't. But up to this point, you may not have realized that, what the difference was. So figuring out your own danger zones. Yes, we all struggle with ED or any other addiction you have when we are too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. But we have our own danger zones too, things that are a danger zone for me but not for you. And what I'm going to encourage you to do, and some of you have done this before, some of you have heard me say to do this before, but you've never actually done it. This time, remember, sobriety requires action. It requires pursuit. This time I'm going to ask you to actually do it. Get out your notebook, get out a piece of paper, get out something, and start a list. And I encourage people to use like 4 pieces. If you have a journal or even just a small notebook, use 4 pages. And on one, say times of day. On another one, say people. On another one, put events. On another one, put feelings. Under times of day, it isn't always a specific time of day like nighttime. So for example, one of the big times where a lot of people find themselves susceptible is nighttime. I can't tell you the number of times people say, well, I did great all day and then nighttime hit and I screwed up. So that is a very common danger zone for people. Being aware of that is super important. For one thing, if you're aware of it, you know to expect that in that danger zone, I'm going to hear from Ed, and I need to be ready for that. That way it doesn't catch me off guard. That's where that compulsive thing comes in, when people are like, well, I didn't even think, and the next thing I knew, I just had chips in my mouth. There's always a process that happens. We first have to be in a danger zone. We second have to hear a thought or a suggestion from Ed, and then finally we actually have to take action and do it. The cool thing about that is there's many opportunities in there for us to break up that cycle before it ever becomes an action, and we're going to dig more into that. But first, before we can, you need to know when you are most vulnerable. Time of day might be nighttime, but it also might be on your drive to work. It might be when you have downtime, when your kids are off to school and you're alone and you have time on your hands. It can be when you have a break. So time of day doesn't necessarily mean like a time on the clock. Sometimes it does, but it can also be, you know, other times of day that trigger you. People. So when I say what people are danger zones, that can be a person who is literally a danger zone because they come around you and they offer you food, or they push food on you, or they have in the past, like you've all like binge buddies, like you always eat together. You go to a restaurant and you are fully intending to stay on plan, and they order something and you wind up eating with them. That person needs to go on your list. It doesn't mean you don't like them, doesn't mean they're not your friend, doesn't mean they're bad people, but you need to be aware, when I'm around this person, they affect my food. Literally, they affect my food. Then you might list people, other people, a sub-list. These are people who, when you're around them, they make you feel like eating, which is a little bit different. Maybe they aren't food pushers. Maybe you don't have any interaction around food, but when they leave your presence, you then soothe yourself with food, or you go to food for whatever reason. And there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of reasons why that can be. It can be they stressed you out. It can be that you have unresolved conflict. But there are people that will trigger you just because they texted you. So they don't even have to be in your presence. So you see people is really two different categories. It's people who trigger you emotionally and people who literally are, I call them agents of ed, meaning they hand you food or they influence you with their food behaviors or their questions about keto or they're doubting your sobriety. So you have a couple of different things with people. And that one's a really deep category. I'll give you an example. So I always say there are people that I can have a text interaction with, and in the past I would literally like walk to the cabinet and get food or start looking for food, and I had to realize this person is a trigger for me. It isn't that. I don't just suddenly get hungry in that moment. You know something's a trigger when if that thing had not occurred, if it wasn't that time of day, if you didn't interact with that person, you would not be looking for food because you're not hungry. That's how you know it's a trigger or a danger, or it creates a danger zone. The next thing is events. So an event can be a vacation. Obviously, that's a big one. An event can be a holiday. An event can be a baseball game, a movie. Events would be like... maybe oftentimes it would be places from your past where food is so closely connected to that activity that it's hard to imagine doing that activity without consuming the food that you have in the past. So that can be a pretty lengthy list too, events. So start to go through your list of events and put those down. It's really important. Again, the point is when you know your danger zones, it gives you a leg up on Ed. He will not blindside you. You can expect that you're going to hear from him. So make sure you do that. And then the last one is feelings. So I've shared before feelings of comparison or inadequacy. For me, feelings of fear, anxiety, those are feelings that were strong triggers. Feelings of sadness, feelings of loneliness, although loneliness is in the original HALT. Feelings of overwhelm. Actually, feelings of celebration or joy can actually even be a trigger for some people. If you have always celebrated everything by eating, that is a feeling that can get you into trouble. So being aware of the feelings that you have that drive you towards food is another big area of danger zones. Now, this is not a super quick activity. I would guess that you could probably sit down and write out some of them right off the bat. Like you could just sit there and just like do it. Some of them require more thought. Some of them require more just being introspective and saying, oh yeah, when in my life did I go off plan where I thought I was good, and then this situation. Sometimes it's like, so events, under events, it might be tragedy. Well, I was doing well until this person in my life got sick or passed away, or betrayal. This person hurt me, and then I turned to food. So when you look at events, you know, it isn't always just a baseball game. It's sometimes it can be life events. So some of those require a lot more introspective stuff. This is a list that I want you to start now, but it's going to be something that I hope that you carry with you and continue to add to and work on, because the more you're aware of when you're vulnerable to Ed, the more you can gird yourself up and be prepared for that battle and win. I'm going to teach you how to win it every single time, but first you need to know when you're going to hear from him. So that is the message for today, is identify your triggers, remembering that all of us have in common being too hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. And again, the whole point is that spells out HALT. And it's not just to remember hungry, angry, lonely, tired. It's to remind you, if I don't halt, stop, in a situation where I'm triggered, I'm probably going to give in to an Ed suggestion. But for right now, really take this to heart. Again, if you have heard me say this over and over, if you've been in month after month, group after group, and you're like, yeah, Jessica's always talking about triggers, some of you guys will put in comments, well, here's my triggers. And I know for sure you're putting it in comments, but you are not getting out a journal or a piece of paper and creating this list. You're doing it here in the group. That is no good. Yes, I mean, I'm not going to say it's no good. It's not the same. Sharing your triggers is great because other people can identify with those, and we can talk about some of those if you want on Saturday. But it's really, really important that you do this work and you have this thing, that you have this ongoing list, and you begin to dig deeper and find out more about yourself. Sharing in the group is awesome. It's not enough. I'll just put it that way. So anyway, hope you all are having a great, great week, and look forward to hearing about some of your triggers. On Saturday, one of the things we're going to talk about is how do we access gratitude, how that can save us from giving into emotional eating, and it's not an easy thing, but it is a process that's possible that we can do every day. I'm going to share with you a tool that I use. Some of you guys have heard about this before. If you've worked with me or you've done other groups, called the Mood Elevator. I just like to pull it out every once in a while because it truly does work. We don't have to stay stuck in the emotional state that we wake up in. And it's important because if we feel stuck, then we're going to be looking for soothing all day. And if you're fighting that battle all day, a lot of times you wind up losing that. So how do we do that? How do we fix it? How do we overcome it? I'll be talking about that on Saturday. Thanks, everybody. Always welcome to give feedback on the video. You are more than welcome to share some of your triggers here in the group, but I really just also encourage you to do that work on your own at home. Thanks. Have a great day.